A lot of thoughts. One too many thoughts. So, if it was clear, there's a war. There's a war going on. And it shouldn't be that to begin with. Yeah, our masters are pitting man against woman, etc., etc. And they've created, because people allowed this to happen, a third group of, cross-dressers. One second, I'm making food as always, and yeah. So earlier, I was waiting for a bus, and whether it's because I look like a dirtbag or people are super duper, selfish, narcissistic, me, memes. Keep in mind, that's an older term that was rehashed, for what it's worth. People pushed to the front of the fucking line. So I skated on over and got near to the front of the line. A woman went before me. And there was this squealy little... It was a dude, but he was a wet fart. And he was trying to push his way in front of me. So I made sure I stepped right in front of him and then dropped my board down, and made a loud noise. So then he backed the fuck off. There were a couple other gals down the way a little bit. They were waiting for the bus too. And so by the time I waited, of course, until they got up to the bus. And this doesn't make me a better person necessarily. This is just how it should fucking be. But I let each one of them on first. And then I thought about letting the wet fart on, but then I was like, oh, fuck this guy. So I went on the bus. Either way. As it should be, in my humble opinion, but that's not how things are. So coincidentally with this happening today, I don't know how... What I'm kicking around is how much or how many of the details I should throw out there. There's somebody that's close to me here in Portland. They've lived in Portland for a long while. And they were excited about something tonight, and it is. It's truthfully pretty cool. But what they told me about is divisive as it comes, and it's telling of the times, and it's fucking terrifying. The roughest part is she knows how I am. You guys who have listened to me, it's not necessarily just how I am. It's, God, I downplay these fucking things. Like I said, there's a war going on, and most people are fucking oblivious to this. Trying to think of how to put it. I mean, if you're out there and you've heard me, talking about what I talk about online in general, she's well aware of all of that, just so you know. We're both Pisces, for what it's worth. And for some reason, she's still hanging out with me. Despite the fact that she reaffirms these narratives, by and large. She has friends, and, Portland. It's a bunch of dudes in dresses wearing masks. That's one way to put it. And it's not just dudes, but it's one way to paint a picture. So in this case, and this has to do with skating, mind you. She got invited to an invite only to an indoor skate park, which I didn't know about. I guess it's super hush-hush is the way she made it sound. This is the first time I've ever heard anything about it. And just so you know, there's a lot of ways to put this too. I'm not butthurt. I'm not, as one of my oldest friends used to say, pee-pee-hearted about it. It doesn't bother me one bit. If I'm not invited, I'm not invited. And I'm being quite honest. I'm being honest. I don't like indoor skate parks. I don't like skate parks for the most part. I don't think I'm good enough for any of that shit anyway, but that shit doesn't thrill me. I skated around downtown today, and I had a fucking blast. I was out doing things, and it served a purpose. It's practical to me, so that's why I like that, opposed to going to a skate park where you have to have teeny little hard as fuck wheels that you can skate on the streets, but they're loud, they jar your knees, they fucking annoy the shit out of you. Here's another side story. I don't think I've told you guys this one real fast. I gotta quit saying real fast because none of this is ever fast. I was skating the other day, talked to some kids that were from their local high school, I think it was, and they were trying to sell some shit, but one of them was like, do a kickflip! And usually I'll talk shit to most people, but I was like, I'm not good enough to do a kickflip. I can't do a kickflip. And so he's like, I can do a kickflip. And I was like, well, that's great, but where's your board? Because I'm not going to let you use mine. And then he looked at it and he's like, oh, I can't do one on yours anyway, because I use chubby little wheels. that I think are fucking amazing. I love these wheels. But yeah. And I imagine someday if I fuck with this shit, I'll be able to do a kickflip with them. They will bounce a bit, but there's that. So, 1 second. Best story ever, right? So that's what I was complaining about, having to do with the skate parks and how I feel like they're impractical, blah, 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 blah. So she's going to an indoor skate park. She's got invite only. She did invite one of her friends who she's been teaching how to skate, and I think that's really sweet. Her friend also, how I usually put it, sucks the day's dick in terms of all these social engineering agendas. They both reaffirm all that shit. So here's the big catch. No dudes are allowed. No dudes were invited. It's exclusively, and this is how she put it, girls. It's a girls' night, but it's girls and trans. So if I put on a fucking dress, and somebody invited me, mind you. I mean, if this gal in particular did not know who I was, and I played dumb, and I put on a fucking dress, I could have got in the door, and I could have got an invite, in other words. If I schmoozed with the kids out there who are promoting this shit. Now, this is segregation of the sexes, mind you. And it's so much more than that. It was really difficult because she's very excited about it tonight. And I'm excited for her. But what it stands for, what it is, and how it's being, how somebody orchestrated this absolutely disgusts me. In other words, if I had friends in Portland and we got together and we had our own little indoor skate park and we did our own little thing like this and we said only dudes and dudes, because there's only men and women, mind you, I'm sure somebody would fucking cry foul and say that it was misogynistic. They would say that it was toxic. They would say, all those fucking things. Fuck the patriarchy. But this shit is acceptable. Here's another tidbit. So she works with a dude who skates. And he likes skate parks and shit like that. So he's honestly a little, butthurt or pee-pee-hearted about this. Which I thought was kind of funny because we talk a little bit of shit about him. He's not a bad guy. But it was kind of funny that he was grumbly about it. But he wasn't about to fucking call, a duck and say, well, why the fuck aren't guys allowed to go? Why aren't guys allowed to go if they're, not wearing a dress? Why isn't everybody in this, in this age of, what do they call it? All-inclusive or, I can't think of what they fucking call it. People have been complaining about people being represented. And yet these are the same kids in that clique who complain about representation. But they purposely excluded guys from this, shindig. Again, it's their shindig. It's their fucking party. I was thinking in terms of, I can cry if I want to, but they can also exclude whoever the fuck they want. And that is how things should be. And yet it cuts so many different ways because you and I are being manipulated. And to appreciate that, you have to just pay attention to the programming. You got to pay attention to what people are repeating. Social engineering trends. They're worse than ever before. They're more on the nose and superficial than ever before. And I've called bullshit having to do with that. And I don't think most people get it. I think there was a changing of the guard, if I'm not mistaken. This doesn't work exactly because both of these are black on the inside. But we came from a time that was like this, and now we're moving into a time that's like this, well, crudely speaking. Leonard Cohen and Misfits. And some of you out there who have seen me complain about that, I mean, maybe you considered my words, maybe you took notes, maybe you know what I'm talking about. Came from a time where it was more patriarchal, now we're moving into a time that's more matriarchal. In other words, we came from a time that wasn't terribly superficial. Now we're moving into a time that is absolutely superficial. And this is what you see in the programming. This is why kids think that they're so wise now because they're being told flat out what some stuff is. keep in mind it's bent. It's still propaganda across the board, and it's still in place to manipulate them. But they're wowed by it because now they see it because they're being told. Before, you had to have eyes to see even the little things, typically speaking, and you had to reason shit out. Now you don't have to think because it lends itself to what I'm getting at with it being superficial. God, this is a bigger thought. There's another video I thought about knocking out today. I'm also trying to reel back me doing what I'm doing right now on the internet for people who don't care for the most part. To those of you who have been kind, thrown me some bones, put in a little bit of time and effort and knocked out, thoughtful questions, interactions in general, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. The other video I was thinking about knocking out has to do with it's a little over 1 minute of me skating. I'm eating old broccoli that I ran out the door and didn't eat hours ago. But I don't know if I should knock out the rest of it. It has to do with energy centers. It has to do with how we function. It has to do with the agenda that I'm alluding to right now. But what the fuck do I know? Most people don't see these videos. Most people won't seek out these videos. They won't sit through them, think about them, take notes, etc., etc. And I understand the delivery is not great in this one. But what I'm talking about is relevant to what we're living through and how we're being manipulated. And most people don't care. And most people are going to be just like that dude who's grumpy because he wasn't invited to the skate park. No, not me, the other guy. It's just in case you assume some shit. Because he didn't call bullshit and call a duck a duck. I mean, it is a segregation of the sexes. It's just as good as, I think of country clubs where they only admitted men, or the military when they were only, letting dudes go to war. And that does make sense based on how dudes and gals are built in a lot of ways, in a hell of a lot of ways. These days, however, our environment's been weaponized in a number of ways, just like our food stock. And it's oversaturated with estrogen. So dudes are smaller and squeakier, and they have less testosterone. They're less manly than ever before. I'm a little dude. I don't think I'm nothing to look at. I'm nobody's ideal, this, that, and the other thing. I'm adopted, and when I found out who my birth mother is on her side, all of my uncles, and keep in mind, these are baby boomers, so this is still that's like the ass end of men having testosterone for the most part, like a good amount, a healthy amount, to limiting degrees, mind you. But all of them were very, very thin. So I was like, all right, so it's not all just environmental factors in this case. I'm genetically predisposed to be like this. So there's that. And there's no, again, I can cry if I want to, but what the fuck is the use?